What's going on, guys? Before we get into the video, I just want to remind you all that I did just recently drop merch and we have some pretty awesome designs, so make sure you check it out. Link will be in the description, but let's go ahead and get into the video. What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am bringing you an updated pure Spright profile. There is no adventures, there are no frogs, no Toadally Awesome, and I did really well with this deck this past weekend. I did top 4 a 3v3 case tournament. My only loss was to the team that won the entire event, so I would consider that a pretty good showing. Let's go ahead and show you guys the build. Alright guys, so starting off, we are playing the typical Spright lineup. We obviously have our 3 copies of Spright Blue, best one in the game, 3 copies of Spright Jet. The utility of Jet did get better with the addition of Double Cross, the new trap. We are still playing 2 copies of Spright Red. I do think that this is the correct ratio, just so that you can play around things like Dark Ruler. I know a lot of people are only playing 1, but if you end your turn with 1 on board, and then they Dark Ruler you, and you have something like a starter that you have set, you really don't have anything good to go into, which is why I like the second red. And then we are still playing 1 Carrot and 1 Pixies. Pixies, I think, is really important. When the deck first came out, I obviously hated on this card, but more and more I see the importance of having it, so that is it for the Spright lineup. Then we are playing 3 copies of Nimble Beaver. Really good normal summon for the deck, but more often than not, you're going to want to summon it from your deck with the effect of Nimble Angler, which we are playing 2 of. The reason I opted to play 2 Nimble Angler is because if you end up drawing your 1 copy of Nimble Angler, then the beavers in your deck kind of become a little bit dead, and you can't really abuse Spright Sprint. So I do like 2. There were a couple games where I did open 1 of them, and having the other one in deck was definitely very helpful, so I definitely recommend playing 2. Then we have 2 copies of Aperia. I wish I had a third one, honestly. This card overperformed. I do want to say that a couple months ago I was looking for these and people were telling me that I was stupid, and then it became the go-to normal summon, especially for like the runic variant. But I think that this card is absolutely insane. It just automatically replaces itself, so hand advantage is super important. It is the most important thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is having the advantage in card resources. So why not play a card that just gives you, it just replaces itself as soon as you summon it. And it's on any summon, not just normal. So like you can even summon it from the deck off of like Gigantic Spright and get your draw, which is absolutely insane. But the card that we would more likely prefer to summon off of our Gigantic Spright is the 1 copy of Capshell, because when we use the Capshell to link into something like Elf, we're going to go ahead and get a draw, and then we can reborn it off the Elf and overlay it into something like Djinn Buster, and then when we use Djinn Buster to negate an effect, we get a draw as well. So between the Aperia and the Capshell, I was never lacking on advantage, and I think that is 100% the reason I did so well with it this past weekend. It was a 75 player tournament. Since it was a 3v3 case tournament, that means 25 teams, so out of the 6 rounds I only lost the 1 to the winning team, and I 100% think it's because I just had the advantage with these 3 cards. The next card also overperformed. That is going to be Kashtira Fenrir. Now, Fenrir is, I've been telling you guys in every profile lately, I think it is a mandatory 3 of in every deck, and it proved itself to me this weekend. At the absolute worst case scenario, it was just another body for me to use if I needed to make something like Sprint, because you only need 1 level 2. So there were hands where I would open up like Fenrir and 1 other like level 2 monster. Like I opened Fenrir Angler and still full comboed, and that was just insane to me. And then the best case scenarios, which happened more often than not, where I left it on my field as an additional interruption for my opponent, and the banish for it, just honestly, yeah, nothing else needs to be said. Play this card at 3 in pretty much every deck. Obviously, like, you can't play it in some decks like Fluandries, but like this card's insane. Then we played a small Bestial package with 2 Magnum and 1 Druid Swarm. I think these are just the superior cards over cards like DD Crow, because again, it ends up being another body. So there were games where I went against like Tearlament or Branded Despia or Branded Tear, and being able to use this on my turn to establish another monster, which can then again go into something like Spright Sprint. Especially with the Druid Swarm, because when it leaves the field, you get to get rid of a special summon monster, so really worked out well. That's it for the monsters. On to the spells. We have 3 one-ofs. That is going to be Called by the Grave, Foolish Burial, and Smashers. Called by the Grave, obviously, it's not banned yet, so we're going to keep playing it. Absolutely insane card. Foolish Burial is a little weird since we're no longer playing the Adventure Engine, but it's really, really strong because you're able to send your copy of Angler. So this also turns into a 1-card combo. If you open like Foolish Burial and nothing else, which is very unlikely, but if it happens, you can go ahead and send the Nimble Angler. Nimble Angler will activate its effect to go ahead and summon 2 Beavers from your deck, and that's just full combo. And then Smashers is Smashers. Now, shout out to Deception. He was on the winning team, and this next card I am only playing because of a conversation I had with him, and that is going to be 3 Cosmic Cyclone in the main deck. Again, this is something that just super overperformed. Against Tearlament, it got rid of the field spell. Getting rid of the field spell means not only do they not get an add, but they also don't get to just get rid of a card that I control anytime they fuse. And then against my round 5, so we were going the bubble. We lost our round 4 against the team that won, and then round 5 was what determined whether or not we made the top cut. So in that round, I was against Pendulums, the new Draco Slayer, so this card came in very clutch. Again, shoutouts to Ed. Wouldn't have played this without his recommendation. Obviously, we have 3 starters. Why wouldn't you play your deck-specific E-Telly? And then we have 3 triple tactics talents. Now, I would cut this down to 2 if I had the 3rd Aperia, just because there were games where I was opening multiple copies of tactics and it just wasn't good. That's why I lost to Ed and his team. I was the middle seat, so was Ed. Against him in game 3, I opened all 3 triple tactics. And, like, honestly, if even one of them was just anything else, I probably could have at least held my own. So I would cut this for the 3rd Aperia if you want to make some changes to the deck. And that's it for the spells. On to the traps. We have the 1 copy of Spright Double Cross. Can't say it enough, I was absolutely wrong about this card. This card is insane. Not only are you able to remove a problematic card from the field, but you can also use it as a pseudo DD Crow to remove problematic cards from the grave. And I think that this card's incredible, and the fact that you can just search it, you only need to play 1, it's really good. And then again, thanks to Ed, I am playing 3 copies of Impermanence. I've been on this kick that I think board breakers are better than hand traps, but at the moment I think Impermanence is a very important card, so that is rounding out the deck at 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. Alright guys, so our extra deck is relatively the same as it's been for the last couple of Spright profiles, but there are some key differences because we are not playing Toadally Awesome or any of the frogs, so let's show you guys what it is. We still have the Cat Shark because I think that pushing for game is important. It came up twice in the case tournament, so I don't think I can cut it just because it is still relevant. Yeah, that's really all that needs to be said there. We are playing the number 65 Gin Buster. This is the Toadally Awesome replacement because we are playing more darks now, and when you make this with Cap Shell, you just get insane advantage. You get a monster negate, you burn them for 500, and you get to draw a card, so I mean, it is really just crazy. We are playing the Onibimaru Soul Sweeper. Again, I think this is the most underrated card in the extra deck, and big shout out to Magnificent Mavens. This boy's getting a ultra rare reprint, so very hyped for that. Not only that, it is a dark monster, so just kind of like flows into everything that you need it to do. And there were games where like I played against a Flunder match, and I went ahead and made this in defense to get rid of an Empen, and one of the materials was the Cap Shell. So I got rid of the Empen, was able to draw a card, and then that one draw was the Spright Blue, which let me continue playing, and I was just able to fully just blow him out. So really cool card. We are still playing the Sky Cavalry Centaria, but we're not playing the Downard, so I might end up cutting this card. I'm not really sure yet. I do like it to be able to get rid of problematic cards you wouldn't normally be able to get rid of, but it never came up in this event, and honestly 9 times out of 10 it doesn't come up anyway. So yeah. We are playing the 2 Gigantic Sprites still, mandatory, and even though we're not playing the Downard, we are still playing a copy of Zeus. I think Zeus is really important, just to be able to get rid of an entire board at once. Obviously, it's more impactful if you have the Downard, but I didn't have the room for the Downard, so I think I'm still going to play it moving forward. I might want to try to squeeze the Downard in, but it is what it is. We are playing 1 copy of the Dark Charmer. This never came up, but I understand its usefulness, and I understand that it will come up a lot, especially with Tearlament and Spright still being the top 2 decks, so I think that this is a mandatory card to play. We have 1 copy of IP Masquerena. I did the really cool combo with this against Draco Slayers in round 5, so obviously worth keeping. This is probably the most likely card that I would cut for the Downard, the Nightmare Phoenix. The idea behind Nightmare Phoenix is if you're up against like a trap-heavy deck and they're playing something like Gozen Match, you do play Fires, so you can go ahead and go up into your Nightmare Phoenix and get rid of the Gozen Match, but it really never came up, so this might be the cut for Downard. I'm not 100% sure yet. Then onto our Sprite Link monsters, we do have the 1 Sprint and the 2 Elf. I understand that 3 Elf is very impactful, but I would rather play the Dark. So I think that the Dark Charmer is better than the 3rd Elf. Sprite Sprint, obviously just really crazy, but only if you're playing the Angler package. Without the Nimbles, you don't really need this card. If you watched the 3v3 winning profiles that I put up yesterday, you'll see that the Runic Sprite players aren't even playing this because there's just nothing else that you want to send. So only play Sprint if you're doing something like the Nimbles. And then we have our Nightmare Unicorn and our Topologic Zeraboros. Topologic Zeraboros came in super clutch. I was against, like I said, Drago Slayers, and he had 2 cards in hand with one of his Pendulum Scales active. One of the cards in his hand was a scale. As soon as he activated the scale, I did the Elf IP combo, where you chainlink 1 Elf, chainlink 2 IP. IP went into Zeraboros. Elf reborned my blue. I went chainlink 1 Zeraboros, chainlink 2 blue. Blue searched me my Jet. Zeraboros banished the field, and then he had 1 card in hand, so there was no feasible way that he could set up his scales again, and that just sealed the game in my favor. But that is the extra deck for you guys. And there you guys have it. That is going to be my pure Sprite. I guess you would call it pure Sprite. It's not using the frogs or the toad, so I think it's really cool. I definitely counted out some of the cards in this deck, but they came in absolutely clutch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned something. If you did, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.